Hello, and welcome to the Graveyard Media Podcast, episode 26 for the week of April 2nd, 2018. I'm your host, as always, Saine Grey. With me is Dalsson.
Hello, it's me.
Thel.
Cold as fuck. It is goddamn cold as hell.
Is it cold?
Yeah, it's cold here.
It's warm here.
You live in Phoenix,
go
Arizona.
Go figure it's warm here, right? It's actually
Yeah.
been really starting to warm up lately. It's been kind of crazy.
Yeah. It was starting to warm up here, but then it just stopped. Gave up. It was like, fuck spring. We'll do it next year.
We'll do it next year.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're going to start off with the games and movies we've checked out this week, into some gaming and movie news at the end of the podcast. So, who wants to start this week?
To forego all formalities, I'm just gonna fucking go. The show that I really spent like a lot of time really watching was Wild Wild Country. Now, a lot of you out there right now and sitting right here with me currently might have this idea of what a documentary is as something that's, kind of really boring. This like thing that you watch in school, this fucking those terrible like History Channel's documentaries that only exist because they had a ton of like stock World War II footage. These just really boring, really dry fucking things, right?
I don't necessarily think that about documentaries personally, but okay.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and well,
I think they
anyway
vary
about
wildly.
If you do have that feeling about documentaries, watching Wild Wild Country is probably a good idea because, oh my god, this is one of the most tense things I have ever seen. It is wonderful. It is incredible. I can't say enough good things about this shit.
So what's the premise of the show?
Okay, so the premise of the show is in the 1960s, in the 1980s, there was a group or cult of people, the Rajneeshpuram, who moved into Central Oregon and set up shop there and sort of annoyed the locals and did a bunch of stuff with their crazy, like, free sex Eastern hippie ways.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, needless to say, this didn't sit well with the sort of towny populace, and so they sort of fought back against them.
That sounds super similar to that cult that kidnapped that one woman, ended up like being held by them for like a while, and then she started working with them. God, I forget her.
That happens with a lot of cults. That happened with fucking.
No, but it was like a really famous one.
Oh yeah. This was not that one. This was one that was it's sort of similar, but basically like this is the baseline sort of like premise that the show sort of builds its house on, and not just the show, but the actual events that happened built the house on. Because like, it spends like a couple episodes with the rednecks, then it moves on to the entire state of Oregon, then it moves on to crazy interconspiratorial like wiretappings and shit within and without the community. There are a bunch of really big players that are interviewed, which usually when you get something like this, it's like, we interview people who were in this person's inner circle, the big kahuna, what was her name? Ma'anan Sheila, who was one of like the big lady who was one of the big propagators of all of the stuff. Usually in a documentary like this, you'd have like all of the people who are around Ma'anan Sheila and they could talk about her, blah blah blah. They just have Ma'anan Sheila the entire time. She's like one of the
I was actually thinking of Patty Hearst.
Oh yeah.
Because actually, I watched a documentary about Patty Hearst not that long ago, in fact, and
oh boy.
Yeah, in a very similar way, like they were very much kind of like cult thing going on in terms of like free love and stuff too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I have that one's actually one I don't know very much about, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was a big deal when it happened.
Yeah.
I think they only held her for like a month before she started working with them or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That reminds me of the Westboro Baptist Church has like one of their big members, the guy who makes like all of the videos and all of this stuff, was like a journalist who was going to investigate that they were able to convince to stay with them, which is like the weirdest thing because he's the only one who's ever done that. Oh boy. But yeah. Back to the actual thing. The where was I? Oh yeah, right. They just did have that lady. They definitely interviewed a lot. They had like a lot of people who were really, really deep into it. They probably would have gotten the Bhagwan, the big leader of the cult, if he wasn't actually fucking dead. And another thing this documentary is it is unbiased in the most wonderful, wonderful way, in which everyone who they interview is incredibly biased against the other guys. They interview like people who are like in the redneck town, like prosecutors who prosecuted them. Then they're like, these people are fucking evil, legitimately fucking evil. They are actually the fucking worst. I have never seen anything like it. It's insane. I'm so glad they're gone. These people are disgusting. And then you have like the people who are on the camp. They're like, this was a complete miscarriage of justice. We weren't doing anything fucking wrong. These people broke the Constitution. Fuck them. And
that's usually how things go.
And it just shows both sides.
Yeah, and it shows both sides equally. Both very, very angry sides completely equally. But yeah, again, this is the most intensity I have ever seen come out of a fucking like documentary series, like more so than I would say even like Tickled or what was that really, really sad one? The one that everyone talks about being really, really sad. The one about the kid whose dad died. I don't remember what it was called.
That sounds like a lot of documentaries.
Yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, it was incredibly intense, just with how like the events ramped up, and even the endings were incredible. There's some real life turnarounds. Like, you know, after all this horrible shit happened, I got my life together, and you know, I'm doing good things for people now, and it's wonderful. And you know, it's nice. It's incredibly cathartic after just a rise. You will have to get through the first episode. The first episode is just purely a blanket. This is what happened. This is what Rajneeshpuram was. This is what we were in India, and this is why we moved to Oregon. And it's like the first episode's really, really dry and not indicative of the rest of the series. Because holy shit, this movie goes this 6-part documentary series goes from like we legal battled the rednecks in this town by buying up a bunch of property that was from sale and basically taking over the town, to I tried to fucking murder someone, an actual human being who almost died. It's some good shit. I recommend that everyone watch this all the time. It's the best. Like a lot of people really liked Making a Murderer. This is better than Making a Murderer. I promise. It's crazy good. Go fucking watch it. I cannot say enough good things about this. Yeah.
Have you watched The Toys That Made Us?
I have not. Well, I've seen like a little bit of it.
I've heard super good things about that documentary series, and that's on Netflix. So I've been thinking about checking it out.
Wild Country is also on Netflix.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I watched a little bit of The Toys That Made Us, and it was I think I didn't watch that much past the first episode. And
what was the first episode about?
Yeah, it was the first episode, and it might have like, you know, built up and got a lot better, but
I think a lot of them depend just on which toys you actually care about. So you kind of have to look at the individual episodes to see if it's one that you care about.
Yeah. And these were like the Star Wars toys, which, I mean, the problem is that I already know all of the shit that happened with these because I've already seen like a ton of documentaries on that sort of
on specifically
shit.
Star Wars.
Yeah, specifically
toys.
Star Wars toys, because they're the ones that started that shit. So if you've ever seen, any documentaries about like how toys are made, you probably know what happened with Star Wars.
Yeah, that one it's like a prerequisite first episode though, because it was so influential on the toy market in general that you have to talk about it, sort of.
Yeah.
So I could see it being the first episode, but
yeah, and maybe it's the same thing as this, where the first episode is just kind of dry, but then holy shit, it gets better as it goes along.
Yeah, I think it's probably. I would assume.
Yeah, again, like if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, it's about that fucking intense.
But it's a documentary.
I mean, yeah, it's a documentary, but that just means all the shit that happened was real.
Right.
The truth is stranger than fiction, and sometimes the truth is fucking crazy.
Good documentaries will usually try to set up their own set of like villains and heroes and kind of talk about it in that context. So that's what makes those games interesting. But those documentaries interesting. Yeah. But sometimes they just don't make it. But sometimes like the subject matter is interesting enough that it kind of carries it. So
yeah.
And this one, and again, they don't actually set up like they don't set up villains. They look at the people who would be in another documentary's villains as like.
I mean, in a way though, they have drama between clashing sides, and that's kind of the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And the drama, it goes fucking places. Wonderful shits. Absolutely 100% recommend Wild Wild Country for everyone. Goddamn.
Okay.
Especially right before playing some Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
I don't really like westerns though, so.
It's not a western.
No, it's country as in like woods, right?
It says the word country and it says Wild Wild in the title. You can't convince me it's not a western. I don't care where it's
say Wild West or Western country. It wouldn't say.
It does have cowboys in it. The redneck people are definitely cowboys. like there 100% is like it does take place in the middle of the fucking nowhere, which most modern westerns have. Which I love all the modern westerns. I'm so happy.
What counts as a modern western is?
I would say like westerns that when I say modern western, I mean like westerns set in like modern times. Like for instance, the Taylor Sheridan movie that came out last year that I can't remember saying. You know what I'm talking about?
With the movie? It was like one of our top 3 movies last year.
Baby Driver.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The one
not Baby Driver, Wind River.
Yeah, would Wind River count as a western?
I don't know if that one would count as a western because there's too much snow.
It's in Alaska, but right? But
yeah.
I don't know. In a weird way, doesn't it kind of seem western-ish?
Yeah, definitely.
It feels like that's kind of a modern equivalent to a western, even if it isn't necessarily in the Southwest.
And hell, Sicario could probably be counted as a modern western. Taylor Sheridan, so basically a movie written and or directed by Taylor Sheridan.
I don't know, Sicario feels more like a crime drama than anything else to me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Anyway.
Again, what is that if not a western?
in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Alright, what do we want to move on to next?
This is a good question. I didn't play any new video game.
Well, why don't I jump into Ready Player One? How about that?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Ready Player One. Yeah. I went into this movie really not sure what to think because I've heard nothing but bad things about the book, and the trailer seemed alright. So I went into this like really not knowing what to think, and actually I ended up liking it quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Good.
It kind of like it succeeds in capturing like video game and pop culture in the same way that Wreck-It Ralph kind of does, in that it's like constant throughout the movie, sure, but it's done in a way that doesn't feel. It feels like a logical consequence of the situation they're in, not so much a like. Obviously, the book was written so they could put as much of it into it as they could, but it didn't feel like it was.
Whoa! You said they as though there isn't a singular mechanized mind.
They as in the.
The
author, like the general they.
Man.
He's using the singular they.
Yeah, the singular they.
The singular, the royal they. The author and his fucking cronies.
The gender-neutral they. It's Mark Klein, right? Who wrote it? Something Klein. I don't remember his first name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this movie benefited quite a bit from being a movie, as opposed to a book. Because one of the major issues with the book is there will be paragraphs of wall-to-wall references. You'll have to read through 5 or 6 titles TM, right? And that.
Oh, I don't have my cigarette. I should.
And like when you have to read it, that feels obtrusive. When someone just mentions it in like in a conversation, there are a couple of points where it's very like obvious this is nothing but references in like a span of 30 seconds, right? But
yeah,
that's just 30 seconds and then you're done. Like it's not as much effort to listen to it as it is to read it, so you are like actively engaging with it, so it doesn't feel as heavy.
Right.
But like this movie was very much like kind of extreme in a way that they could really push the boundaries of like what you could do in an action movie, because like nothing is real. So it's not like it has stakes, but it's not like anyone is dying. So like the very first major part of the movie is like a race down like a very like crazy like fucked up racetrack, kind of on like the equivalent of like the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes.
I don't know that I don't know if it's actually the Golden Gate Bridge or not, but it like looks like it, or it's like shaped that way, sort of.
Right. It's a suspension bridge.
Yeah, it's a suspension bridge, so it kind of has that feel to it. But so they drive through it, and like people are getting blown up, like their T-Rexes are stomping on people, like there's crazy ramps that people like hit wrong and just explode. So like that race is probably one of the most like interesting like races I've seen in a movie, just because there's no holds barred about the people getting blown up, and the hazards are just like ridiculous things like King Kong and a T-Rex.
It's like a Death Race USA or whatever that movie was.
Like so the movie isn't brought like it doesn't like fight your suspension of disbelief to see this crazy shit happening, because like that is part of the movie. And I think that it kind of does something in it, like it gets away with something kind of unique in that it doesn't have to like be tied down to reality. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if nothing else, the movie is just a spectacle, a fun like roller coaster ride to watch. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I think the action throughout the movie is like pretty great.
And that's what Spielberg was always really good at. He was good at making just fun popcorn movies for the kids. And he doesn't do that anymore. And you know, it's nice that he's getting back to it.
I think this movie is controversial enough, though, that I don't know that in 10 years we're going to look back at it and think of it as a Jurassic Park. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it definitely like it is fun. It's a fun movie, and if you are interested in the culture of like video games and just general 80s nostalgia pop culture, then like yes, it's fun. You know what I mean? Like
I just when you say that, when you said if you were interested in it, I'm just imagining a grandma like, oh, you know, my grandson is really into the video games. Maybe I should go and see these movies and learn what this video games is all about.
And then she sees a T-Rex stomping on cars while King Kong throws them around, and
she goes, "Oh hell yes, hell fucking yes!"
I know
it's a video game.
I know it's not the best measure of it, but I saw this movie with my dad, and he was totally into it, even though he's not like the biggest video game player. So he came away from the movie like really complimenting the action and thinking like it was really fun to watch the whole way through. And that's from a perspective of someone who isn't steeped in like video game culture, who doesn't recognize characters like Tracer or Master Chief running around on the like giant battlefield.
How much do you think that they paid for licensing for all these characters?
I honestly don't think they paid fucking anything for it.
I think that they were paid.
Yeah, I think that
Steven Spielberg walking up and saying, "Hey, can I use Tracer Overwatch in my video game?"
Either Steven Spielberg just asked and got it for free, or people paid to be included in the movie. So, the Overwatch one in particular is interesting because Tracer shows up at least 3 times in the movie. Like, not in a notable way, but in a like she doesn't do anything.
She was in the background.
She isn't plot relevant or anything, but she is noticeably in the movie multiple times. You know what I mean?
Hi, love, it's me, Tracer Overwatch. You want to go kill Danny DeVito?
Goodbye.
I'm here to promote my new video game, Overwatch TM.
Yeah, there's one scene. There's one scene where they're going through like the shops that have like different avatar like things and just weird game items and stuff. And they walk by a booth that is clearly like Tracer dancing around, and then there's like the Overwatch logo above her, and that's like you can buy the Tracer model or whatever if you want. So it's very much like that.
Tail in a bowl, bitch.
This game feels like the logical extreme of Second Life in VR.
Yeah,
I think the
without
logical
the porn.
extreme of Second Life in VR is Second Life in VR.
That's true, actually. But I feel like
this is a watered down Second Life in VR.
I feel it's like Second Life without, the porn parts of Second Life.
Yeah, how many furries were in it? That's the metric.
At least one notable one.
Oh yeah, I remember. I saw a picture of it.
There's like this total like cat
Like
lady who is basically
cat
spying
lady.
on the main characters.
Played by a 40-year-old fucking. He's been around in the community for a long time. Played by Doug Winger himself.
I don't know about
he
that.
He died and they uploaded the consciousness to the game.
Hi, I'm Doug Winger. That's how he talks.
There's so kind of the funniest thing about a lot of it is there's like funny mismatches of like voices to characters, like intentionally so.
Good.
My favorite, like one of my favorite characters in the movie is he's like a bad guy henchman guy. He has like he's this big dude and he has like a skull for a chest and like he has holes that you can see through his torso and stuff. And then he's voiced by TJ Miller. The friend of the guy who is Deadpool's friend in Deadpool.
Yeah.
So it's just like this menacing guy in a hood and he has like a gray face and he has like this skull chest and he's like, "Man, my neck kind of hurts." It's I don't know.
Hi there, I'm Kogar the fucking eater. I'm going to fucking kill you. Are you ready? It's coming.
But there's like
La Marshmallow.
So there's lots of points throughout the movie where it's like there are lots of like little I don't know if you would even call them Easter eggs, right? Because they are just straight up a character from this thing that you would only kind of recognize if you knew that like thing was. But like there was a part where they don't bring they don't name him, but one of the characters is like disguised as Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And so he Goro walks up and grabs the main character and like pulls him aside and whatever. I don't know. There's just like I was worried about it being like too much, but I thought that in a weird way it like reveled in how crazy it was, and that made it
because
good.
of the fact that there was so much
going on.
Like that was the whole
so dense.
Yeah. And it didn't, and like the script was well written, so you didn't feel like you were reading clunky dialogue written by
some dumbass.
Yeah. So
some like dumbass who wants to who wrote a poem about how he wants intellectuals in his porn. I don't want to fuck these bimbos. I want to put my cock in some intellectual babes because I'm a feminist.
Yeah, so I don't know if
You're
there's
really laying it on here though with the.
I don't like this man.
I didn't.
I
didn't notice any glaring plot holes or anything, and I haven't heard complaints about that, so it seems like pretty fine. But I don't know. I definitely...
Other than the plot hole of it just being every video game ever.
Well, that's not a plot hole though. And actually,
it's not a plot hole exactly.
And like they kind of acknowledge certain things, like certain items have levels, and like very powerful items are rare or expensive. So like it kind of makes sense to expect that these things wouldn't come up very often because the only people who would have them are people who had a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Like in-game money. Although it, in a weird way, it tied it to like real world money too, so you could buy real world items with game money because the Oasis was like that big, kind of. So you could cash out. You could cash out in the Oasis.
Yeah.
Is the Oasis like a physical like VR suite kind of thing, or is it like Sword Art Online type of deal where you?
So it seems like from the way that it seemed like there was tiers in the type of like gear you could have for it. So you could just have a visor and like gloves, and that would be enough. But you could also get like a fancy suit that is like force feedback as well.
The power glove. It's bad.
So I don't know, like
you were close, but you were right. But yeah.
Also, but I think if there is like one complaint I would have is like it like the main villain is kind of like comic book bad. Like very obviously like almost cheesy bad.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, like some of the things that they do in the movie is just a little extreme for what they're I don't know. It just seems silly that they would go to that extent when in reality if someone did something like that from like a corporate side, like everyone would go to jail. You know what I mean? Like the company would be like bankrupt or whatever if they caught
just
doing
like
some of the
Sword
stuff
Art
that they were
Online.
doing. Well, with like Sword Art Online and even like .hack sign, like I don't know as much about Sword Art Online, but .hack sign, like they talked about how they were covering up the fact that people were going into comas and stuff while playing their game. So they like acknowledged that and said they were actively suppressing information about it. Whereas in this, I don't know. It's just it just seems weird.
The weird thing about Sword Art Online is that like this Nerve Gear stuff was a limited release, and then everybody who had it got caught inside the game, right? And then when they finally found out how to escape, 5 years later, there was another game made for the Nerve Gear. Where you would think that they would just destroy all Nerve Gear.
I mean, they did something similar in .hack sign where they had like a headset as well that when you ran into certain enemies in the game that were hacking, essentially, they would fucking put people into.
Jeez.
I don't know. Yeah, the one like so the villains were a little bit like comic book villainish, which in the context of the movie, it's like it's not to like hand wave it away, but it's like it's just kind of a means to an end, sort of.
Right.
And the other thing is like it's built on a premise that like a dystopian premise that I just think is pretty impossible. Like some of it was built on the premise of like indentured servitude and like paying off debts and whatever, and it's just like that's something that just kind of wouldn't happen.
Probably. I mean, you know, if you're like in like a really, really bad spot and someone is actively exploiting you because you got human trafficked, okay, but
but that's like illegal.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's illegal.
Whereas what they were doing, at least that aspect of it, the indentured slavery or whatever, that was totally legal. So I don't know. It's weird. But like
it seems a little weird.
And like dystopian science fiction likes to do stuff like that a lot, talk about indentured slavery or whatever, and I just don't see that happening again in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that with all the mistakes we're going to make, that's not one of them. And I feel like that's been proven throughout history because that's been tried a lot by a bunch of different civilizations, and it's always resulted in a horrible revolution with people dying.
I think the one time that I can think of was actually the most recent time, and that was the United States had indentured servants who would like take on debt to travel on a ship and then pay it off on the other side. But it wasn't so much, and they weren't reoccurring costs, and I guess the contracts were good enough that those people who did that paid off their debts and got out of it.
Right.
It wasn't like they were there forever unless you were like a black slave brought over from Africa.
Which is not indentured servitude. That's
right,
just
that
slavery.
is slavery. So like, I don't know. I think that is the most recent time that I know about that indentured slavery was used, but I wouldn't be surprised if there has been something recent. But
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think of that. I just don't see that happening in the future, or
as like a big sort of like not like entirely illegal people are being human trafficked sort of deal.
Right.
Right.
And even
you
if
gotta pay for your multi-video game somehow.
And even if it were to the thing where like you did have to pay off debt like that, and you couldn't just like file for bankruptcy or something, even if you were in that situation, like contracts would be better so that you weren't like housing costs and food costs wouldn't be added to your bill, thus further prolonging your stay. Like that's just something that wouldn't happen. Contracts would just be better, right?
Right.
So I don't know. Like if you can get past that like common dystopian trope,
yeah,
that's almost not Ready Player One's fault. That's just kind of like dystopian literature in general's fault a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But other than that, like I actually really did enjoy the movie way more than I thought I would. I was very like on the fence about how I was gonna feel about it going into it, and maybe that's why I ended up liking it so much. But I definitely like recommend watching it. It's a fun movie.
It's like that good old thing I heard about what was it? The Big Bang Theory. That quotation where it's like the dumb people think Big Bang Theory is good. The medium people think Big Bang Theory is bad. And then it's the Big Bang Theory is an incredible commentary on nerds who are horribly annoying and unfunny.
Yeah, the problem with Big Bang Theory is like the punchline will be Halo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the punchline will be a reference. This movie,
the punchline will be fucking Metroid is not a man, he's a girl.
Yeah. And in this movie, it wasn't like they didn't use references as punchlines. They sometimes use references as jokes, but they didn't. It wasn't like the joke is Halo. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I thought like it had the potential to run into a lot of like really dumb shit, and they were able to avoid most of the really dumb shit.
Yeah.
There is like I don't know if this was. I assume this was probably in the book, but there's a part in the middle so fucking good. Like there's a whole sequence about like the second key that I just absolutely love. Especially since I saw some stuff on the movie they were referencing ahead, like before this movie, so it was like, oh, it was great. I don't want to like spoil that section of the movie, so I won't tell you what movie it was referencing because it's kind of a fun part. But like,
and also this is a movie that just came out, so we don't want to spoil it necessarily.
Yeah,
and I don't even
might be excited for it.
And I don't even think that it's like a big, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I would rather people experience that for the first time, you know, on their own without me spoiling that bit of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But Thel,
if you are gonna see
Thel, you would probably like it though.
Okay.
You would like that middle reference of probably.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I definitely like. I actually highly recommend the movie. It's really good.
Okay.
Do we want to move on to some other topics?
Yeah. Sure. What should we move on to? Dalsson, have you done anything on your own?
Why don't you tell us about Path of Exile Royale?
I played it for like 3 seconds and stopped, so I don't have much to say. Dalsson, go right ahead.
Oh boy. So, Path of Exile Royale was Path of Exile's April Fool's Day joke. They said, well, we need to keep up with the current trends to remain competitive in this video game market, so we're releasing a new mode that we developed for one single day called Path of Exile Royale. And basically, everybody starts at level 1 on a map that doesn't change at all, and you start at random spots and blah, blah, blah. It's basically a Battle Royale style game in Path of Exile.
Is it actually a PvP?
Yes, it's straight up PvP. Like 100 players dropped onto an island, and you have to go through boxes to get weapons and skill gems and stuff. And
I feel like that sounds kind of fun. I don't.
It sounds
It sounds fun in practice, but not exactly in execution.
In theory, but not in practice.
Yeah. In theory, and not in practice.
I don't know. I had some fun with it once I actually like got rolling, but you get killed like really fast, and then there's one skill in the game called split arrow, right? Which is a fan of arrows that goes out in front of you, right? So
if you get that, you win, basically.
Yeah, if you get that, you win, basically. But so you could use like an arrow. First off, don't even bother picking up melee weapons or melee skill gems. Pointless. You literally cannot win with them.
That doesn't sound too dissimilar from from like PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Right, except there is one ranged weapon in Path of Exile, and it's a bow, and you have to have it.
Yeah.
And all of the other weapons are melee weapons.
Well, there are also wands, but wands are trash.
Yeah, wands are pretty bad too.
Yeah.
But the point is, you need to get split arrow, or else you're gonna, because now normally when you fire something at a monster, it tracks the monster a little bit. It like predicts where they're going to move and hits them, like with 100% accuracy, or it does the accuracy roll. Yeah, game accuracy. But with the PvP mode, you have to actually aim your shots.
That's weird.
Now, yeah, so if you're shooting an arrow at Joe Schmo and you have one arrow, it's like a lightning arrow, so it does a lot of damage. It's real cool. But you have to hit him. And if he's running away, you have to chase him and hit him. If you have split arrow, you can just shoot at him. Then there's the arrow in the middle. Then there's 5 more arrows in a fan. So it's undodgeable. If you have split arrow, every single shot you have is going to hit. And there's nothing they can do about it. And even like at the end game, whenever he's level 5 or 6, you deal 50 to 100% of people's health in one attack. So
is it split arrow? Because I thought split arrow was the one that when it hits something, split into multiple arrows, not
that's ricochet.
Yeah.
Split arrow is a fan of arrows.
Yeah.
Or no. I think it's split shot support. You're thinking of a support gem.
Yeah.
Split arrow is a basic ability that just fires 5 arrows.
All right.
So yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's fun. It's kind of cool. It also teaches people about cutthroat racing, which is a mode that nobody really does. Path of Exile every once in a while will have race leagues where you just try to race with other players to see who can get the farthest in 30 minutes or an hour into the game, right? And you can earn rewards for your regular characters and that. And race leagues are really fun. I enjoy them. But Cutthroat is a race league where every time you join a new zone, you have a chance to get seeded into somebody else's world that's also playing that zone. And you can kill them and take their gear and reset their progress. So Cutthroat is really fun, but it's just a bunch of low-level PvP nonsense. And nobody even plays the high-level PvP in Path of Exile.
So I have a question. Does this game mode have like any potential? Could they tune it up, or is it just like a joke and that's all it should be?
Well, a lot of people like it. Everybody basically, like, within 10 minutes of it coming out, people were begging for it to stay past April Fool's Day. But the developers do not want to keep it in because it will increase their development time. People already complain about the dev, not the time it takes, but they're on a very strict dev cycle. 4 months and there's a new league that has to have like all new mechanics and everything.
Yeah.
And they're developing 2 or 3 of those at a time. And so if they were trying to also develop this mode, it would be a pain. And people are saying,
why don't they just drop it out in place of one of those ladders or whatever?
Well, because it's not the real game. It's
some sort of side thing.
It's one map. It's not like the leagues are the real game
with this added
in.
Thing. Yeah.
I suppose they probably could put it in as a race league that they run for limited times. Like that.
See,
I think it's
the thing that
a legit idea.
It seems to me that why not tune it up a little bit and leave it in? It's not like they have to ongoing develop it or balance for it. It could just be like, acknowledge that it's balanced like shit.
Right,
I
but
don't
think
know.
it's been out. It's been out for one day, and people have already solved the game. You just look around. You play Ranger, look around until you find Split Arrow, and you win automatically.
But I feel like though. I feel like
so
they
they
could
would
do
need to
things
do-
to tune it up. From the sounds of it, like they could just remove Split Arrow
Right.
or
But-
remove bows. Like
Yeah. It's just that like every time they think that it's like one of those. This is what the developer was explaining. This isn't me arguing it. What the developer was arguing was that it's one of those things like, okay, we'll remove Split Arrow, and then suddenly somebody finds out that Freezing Pulse is the next best option, and everybody's crying for a nerf for Freezing Pulse. Well, we nerf Freezing Pulse in this game, and then melee weapons become the best, so we have to retune every melee ability, and then we retune every melee ability, and Lightning Strike becomes the best ability, and so it's just a constant cycle, and they don't really want to get into that PvP balancing cycle thing when they have to develop.
I guess that makes
real
some sense,
game.
but I don't see why you can't just leave it unbalanced.
Yeah,
Because even if everybody just uses Split Arrow, like
you still have to find the Split Arrow.
Yeah, ongoing throughout the development of Path of Exile, they're going to be tweaking and changing stuff for the single player content. So that still leaves the potential that suddenly people will find something else that's really powerful, or someone will be like, okay, well, if Split Arrow is really good, what can I do to protect myself from Split Arrow? And then that develops a meta. So, like, I kind of don't see why they just don't have it as a side mode that people can play if they want. I don't know.
In fairness, we're almost through April 2nd, and it would be April 3rd in Australia, and it's still there. So,
yeah.
I mean, they're leaving it up for a while. I think it would be, like, legitimately fun to introduce it as one of the... So these race seasons that they do, they run the races for, like, a month, and then they run, like, throughout every day of the month, they run, like, 8 or 9 races during the day that last anywhere between 30 minutes to 3 hours. I think it would be fun to just put this mode as one of the races that they could run. For rewards like, oh, you get it. And oh, if you win this game, you get a decoration for your hideout that is a Roa on a cooking spit called Roa Dinner, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I kind of do hope that they leave it in just for people to have fun with, even if they don't actively develop for it.
Yeah, it's dumb and fun, and I like it.
And just be like, anytime anyone ever asks for a nerf to Split Arrow or whatever, just be like, no.
Just nerf Split Arrow in the real game.
It's just like, no, we're not balancing for it, sorry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see why they couldn't just leave it, but...
Yeah. It's the same reason they don't leave the race leagues up, I guess. Like,
or they could really lean into it and just create a separate team that does nothing but the battle royale mode and make $1 million. But you know,
yeah, it was. It was actually the number. It was right behind League of Legends. It was being more streamed than Fortnite when the mode came out.
That is true.
That really just doesn't surprise me at all.
As soon as a new thing has, or no, it was right above Hearthstone. Fortnite is above League usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really silly stuff.
All right, do you want to move on then?
Yeah.
We should probably talk about Lemony Snicket's Wonderful Adventure.
Okay. I don't
Did you
know how
ever
to
read
don't
a
know how to
series of
spell that.
A series of
Lemony
unfortunate
Snicket's
events?
Incredible Adventure.
It's a series of unfortunate events.
Is it a series of unfortunate events? It's not the adventure one.
Yeah,
Tell me the actual title because I don't.
The title is a series of unfortunate events.
Because I know that was the same title as the movie, so I wasn't sure if they changed it for the series or whatever. But okay,
it's based on books. So okay, so show of hands, who read all the books?
All of them?
I read the title of a book before.
More than 50% of the books.
I've seen the book in person before.
I don't know if I have.
I have seen. This is a fun story.
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell the story.
I have seen Lemony Snicket himself in person. He came to my elementary school. He came to Lemony Snicket.
No wonder you read it.
Yeah. Go on.
He came. What did you say, Saine? You want to go?
I said no wonder you read the book.
Well, it was at the height of the book's popularity. He was touring schools, right?
Yeah.
It obviously wasn't Lemony Snicket because Lemony Snicket is a character in the books.
Yeah.
But it was the author of the books, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's where the story falls apart. I was in like 3rd grade, right? So he was sitting here talking about his book to a bunch of 3rd graders. And that's like the coolest shit. An author comes and talks to you about the book that you love, right? That's great. Except here is how he introduced himself. He said, "Hi, I'm Joe Schmo. And unfortunately, Lemony Snicket had some issues that he ran into for the volunteer fire department, and he couldn't be here today, so I'm his stand-in." And now,
Daniel
if
Handler.
I were... Yeah, Daniel Hand. How did I get Dan right? Wow. If I had been an adult at the time, I would have thought, wow, this is really cool. I get to hear about how the author wrote the books and stuff and all this cool stuff, right? But because I was a 3rd grader, I was like, I'm going to get to meet Lemony Snicket. This is going to be cool. And then this asshole who is not Lemony Snicket is talking to me. And I'm like, wow, this is shitty. I'm really bored.
They should have just presented it as the guy who wrote the book.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but except the way the books are presented, like Lemony Snicket is on the cover, right?
Yeah.
Like he is the author of the books. It's a pseudonym and he's a character in the books.
Yeah.
So he's not real.
I don't know. Even saying like, oh, I'm filling in for him, he should have just been like, yeah, whatever, I'm Lemony Snicket.
Yeah, he should have just said, I'm Lemony Snicket, but I'm betting
that
he...
Patrick Warburton to come out to school.
Yeah.
Read a script.
But I'm betting that he didn't want to do that because he didn't feel confident in playing the character of Lemony Snicket, like from his mind, you know.
They should have just got Jim Carrey to tour.
Jim Carrey was Count Olaf in the terrible movie.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris is Count Olaf in the series, which is much, much better.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, okay, why don't you actually tell me about this series? Is it any good?
Okay. The series of... Okay, here's the thing.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, there are a lot of unfortunate. There are a lot of unfortunate events that happen. I haven't actually seen a lot of buzz around the series. Like even when it first started, like the
really
series
surprising
came out. Yeah, that really surprises me
because
I didn't realize it came
really,
out.
Really good.
I heard about it. I heard about people talking about it, but I didn't actually hear
if it was good or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did it come to? Did it come to Amazon Prime?
It's Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
So okay, so it follows all of the books in a format. It uses 2 hours per book. It uses 2 episodes for each book that they do, and then it follows the books pretty religiously.
Yeah. Well, not exactly.
Not exactly. It seeds little story hint like because the series is coming out almost all at once. It seeds hints for later episodes, this and that.
And also goes into a little bit deeper into the VFD. Like,
I looked it up. Thel, Jacques Snicket is a character that debuts in
that book.
Yeah. So
it's been years since we've read the book.
Yeah. Like I said, I was in 3rd grade when I was reading these books.
Yeah.
So like people in like a 3rd to 6th grade reading level now are 25 to 30-ish.
Yeah.
And they love and that demographic loves to binge watch shit on Netflix. That's why I'm so surprised I haven't heard a lot about this series.
Is it geared towards young adults or is it geared towards
the show is I would say is geared towards young adults.
Yeah.
They have some you know, it's one of those things, like they have some more adult humor in it too. Like there's this one woman who really wants to fuck Count Olaf, and she keeps saying, why don't we go into your room and do something fun? And Olaf's like, yes, dance. I've always wanted to try a tango.
Yeah. Just little things like that.
Yeah.
This movie this series, I feel like it definitely benefits from being like not just like a Netflix series, but like being in a visual medium, like being this rather than a book, sort of like you were saying with Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Because it is, well, if you'll remember the Jim Carrey movie, there was like 2 things that were good about that. Jim Carrey and how everything was stylized. This is very much how everything was stylized. It's the showrunner is Barry Sonnenfeld, who you will probably know that name as the man who directed 9 Lives with Kevin Spacey.
I honestly think that Jim Carrey being in that movie was points against it, because the whole time you were watching Jim Carrey, not Lemony Snicket. You know
No,
what I mean?
he was playing Count Olaf,
or Count Olaf,
who is like the world's silliest villain ever.
But my point was that he is so.
He's so Jim Carrey.
He's so Jim Carrey.
Right.
Jim Carrey is like kind of distracting from any character who's not written for his character,
right?
Or for the actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like he did a pretty good job as Count Olaf, though.
I do agree.
I don't
think
remember
Count
that
Olaf's
movie, honestly.
decent
Yeah,
but I think that Neil Patrick Harris like fucking
Neil Patrick Harris fucks it up.
He is an incredible Count Olaf.
Yeah, he
also
great.
Jacques Snicket, who is a character in one of the books, he dies, which isn't even a spoiler, because if you know anything about a series of unfortunate events, probably everybody dies.
Everybody dies, yeah.
He is played by Nathan Fillion, and he's like he's Count Olaf's primary adversary, so it's
and Lemony Snicket himself is played by Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, famous for Kronk
Brock
and
Samson,
Family Guy, and Brock Samson, because Thel's been watching Venture Brothers recently.
Yeah,
no, I think Brock Samson is probably one of his more notable roles, I would say.
Yeah, but like I was saying, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who did do 9 Lives, but back in like the sort of late 90s was his big thing where he was doing sort of his own things. He did Men in Black and the Addams Family movies. Those are the things you probably know Barry Sonnenfeld for. And since then, he's kind of been like corporate horror man who's just been trying to make a buck, but he doesn't feel like this here. It feels like this is back to his, like, a lot of people say that this is Tim Burton's thing. Tim Burton has this style where it's all, Barry Sonnenfeld has the style and he does it better. Let's be fucking honest. Tim Burton did good, but Barry Sonnenfeld is back in on his shit, and when he got back on his shit, it gets good. So yeah. Visually, this show is fucking great. It is always really, really, really creative in that sort of people would call it Tim Burton-y aesthetic, you know?
Right. Yeah, and like that's the whole point. Like the entire, like the books. I enjoy the series more than I remember enjoying the books, but I haven't read the books in a long time, so bear with me here. The books I do recall were really engaging. The man who wrote them was really good at using words just to set a scene, and the fact that he like all of the time would pull you out to narrate some random rant from his life, you know. It really is just
describe a word in great
or describe a word. He say the phrase "butterflies in your stomach" here means to be very anxious about something, and as we covered in the previous
by a
book,
man who was raided by the government for having butterflies in his house.
Yeah, and it's like, and as we covered in the previous book, the word anxious and the word nervous are two different things, and like geared towards young readers, the book was actually really good for learning vocabulary.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool, and in like a fun way, not in just defining words, you know.
Yeah,
and
the same thing.
It does that in the series all the time. Patrick Warburton will just walk onto the screen like fucking Rod Sterling in the Twilight Zone and just start going off on a rant that doesn't seem related at all until 5 or 10 minutes later. He'll tie it back and he say, and here Klaus was feeling butterflies in his stomach.
Yeah, or
and then it goes on
the very last episode with the belly of the beast. It's like the belly of the beast is going to be used 3 times in this episode.
Yeah. And then they like count it on the screen. It's cool.
Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be interested in the series at all, but from the cast, it seems like I might just want to watch it just because the cast seems really good.
The cast is
Neil Patrick
incredible.
Harris, Nathan Fillion, and Patrick
even
Warburton
the child actors
together
are really
all
good.
seems pretty cool.
Yeah,
including the baby that they use for Sunny. That reminds me, they do make it's one of those things that's being released in parts. So they did like book 1 through 5, then there were a few months, and then they did book 1 through or 5 through 10, and then there's going to be a few more months. They're going to do 5 or 10 through 15 or whatever, right? The very first joke that they made in the second half, because it had been months and months since they were filming.
Yeah.
they were waiting around for something at a school or something, and they were like, wow, it feels like we've been waiting here so long. Sonny's more of a toddler than a baby, and it's because it's because the baby actor that they used grew up in the time that they were filming it.
and they made that joke like multiple times throughout the movie. It's like, we have to capture that baby. Well, she's really more of a toddler now.
Yeah, and it's funny because I really enjoyed that joke because we make that joke every time we start a D&D session. It's like, so it's been about 10 minutes. Wow, really? It feels like a whole week.
Yeah.
So it good humor, good writing, good use of visuals to really
and not only that, but like the espionage layer of this that was always in the books, but sort of like it was like a big mystery. Sparse. It's much more deeply layered in the show, which is really nice and works to its advantage because it's like you get to see all of these other like side characters working with the VFD and doing all of this stuff. Like it sort of builds the mystery up of what are these guys doing and what's going on with these guys as the Baudelaires sort of learn about this themselves. We get a little bit more information, which is nice. And sometimes it comes off as like there are some things that are like just straight up red herrings that look like they're going to be one thing and then turn out to be something completely different.
Including a literal red herring,
which was in the books, which I do remember. I remember that fucking
in high school, I was reading the Aragon series.
Yeah.
I really wish that would be turned into a series because it was, or like a TV series or whatever, because they made it into that movie, but that was such a god-awful movie.
Trash.
Like, the people talk shit about the fucking series of unfortunate events. That at least had one thing going for it. One particular man. Aragorn was trash. It was bad. Bad.
Like,
just bad.
I don't know. Like, because they had to abridge
Aragon, not Aragorn.
Yeah.
Aragorn is Lord of the Rings.
I was just gonna leave it. But they abridged that movie so hard from the book that it's like, like,
I mean, the books were this fucking thick, though. Like, they had to abridge it somehow.
Yeah, but the way they abridged it wasn't effective, though. You know?
Yeah. That's why. In fact, in the series of unfortunate events series, and I mean constantly, it's like at least in every episode, they make jokes about how like long form television is a better medium than other things.
Yeah.
Like Count Olaf is into theater, right? He's like a stage actor. And he'll even say that long form theater is better than a lot of things, but I think somewhere around the second, third episode, they're going to a movie and Count Olaf is in one of his zany disguises. And these guys, he's like, we're going to see a movie. Come on, Mr. Not Count Olaf Man. And Not Count Olaf Man says, oh, movies. No, I don't like movies. I'm much more partial to long form television.
Yeah.
I'd
rather be binge watching a series right now.
Yeah, I'd rather be binge watching a series. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My problem with Aragon in particular was like, I swear that movie had like 3 time skips in it, because they just had to cover such a huge amount of time that if it were in a series, they could dedicate 3 or 4 episodes to like the chat, like him growing up and whatever in the very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Like the problem with movies is that you have to have an arc that has like a climax and stuff. Whereas in a series, the climax could be over the whole series, which is nicer.
Exactly.
I was in that like 2000s boom of fantasy
that was like
after the Lord of the Rings got really big, and not a single movie was able to capitalize.
I would attribute it more to Harry Potter, honestly.
Mm.
In fact, I think even Lord of the Rings to some extent probably made because Harry Potter was.
Yeah, it was about the same development cycle, because Harry Potter came out in 1999, and then Lord of the Rings came out in like 2001. That's about one movie's worth of bacon. Yeah, okay, yeah. I definitely agree.
Makes sense.
Let's move on to Ni no Kuni, though, because
okay, sure.
It's been about an hour already, and I do want to talk about this game. I don't have a huge amount to say yet, because I've only I'm not going to put the full title because it's very long.
Yeah.
I'm only like 4.5 hours into it so far, maybe like 5. I I really love this game already. So a little bit of background on Ni no Kuni as a series. The first video game on PS2, I believe, and it was co-produced with Studio Ghibli. So a lot of the character designs and stuff of the first game were directly handled by Studio Ghibli. So so the second one, Ni no Kuni 2, does not continue that relationship with Studio Ghibli, but because it is based on the same theme as the first one, a lot of the character designs and a lot of the like environmental designs very much kind of give a Studio Ghibli feel to it, even if you can tell maybe that's not exactly what.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like, for one of the biggest like kind of clues into that for me is that the characters are all like Studio Ghibli-esque, like anime cel shaded,
Right.
in backgrounds that are more heavily detailed than they are. And I think that's kind of a lot of times what Studio Ghibli movies look like. It's like, oh, very realistic backgrounds and renderings, and then like an anime character, and it kind of works, but there's still that contrast. And I think this game has a little bit of that going on too. I just wish they were a little bit more consistent in their texture work, because some of the textures are like kind of bad. They look like they're heavily detailed, but they look like Unity assets sometimes, especially when you're around rocks, like rocks and like sand and stuff. So backing up a little bit, this game is not a direct sequel to Ni no Kuni 1. It is actually just like in the same kind of universe. So you don't need to have played Ni no Kuni 1 in order to pick up Ni no Kuni 2. And actually, I might not recommend it at this point, because Ni no Kuni 2 is kind of has a completely different feel to it as the first one. The first one was actually pretty sad. This one is a lot, very much more lighthearted, and it has from what I've read, it has a better combat system and a better, like, its systems are a bit more developed.
Well, that's good.
So this game is an action RPG with two kind of base layers to it.
It's not turn-based.
It's not turn-based whatsoever. Okay. It is completely action-based combat. And it's actually really satisfying and fun combat. It's probably what I like most about the game. I'm constantly like fighting, like, so there's two layers to it. There is like the combat layer, the overworld layer, and then like a dungeon layer, right?
Right.
The overworld, I don't really like this about the game, but it has kind of a zoomed out overworld, and you have like you're a chibi character and you walk through the overworld like that, and then there are other enemies that when they run into you, you start a combat, and then you go into the combat layer, which is like kind of an arena sort of deal where you fight the monsters. And again, the combat's really fun, so you fight the monsters in that combat, and then after you're done, you go back to the overworld layer. It also has a dungeon layer though, and this is actually handled a lot better. When you're in the dungeon layer, or like, it's not always like exactly dungeons. Sometimes it's like caves. Sometimes it's like a forest zone,
like a zone area.
Kind of deal. When you're in those zones, you like combat is a little bit more fluid. You kind of walk into just enemies standing there instead of like hitting. Not like a random encounter, but like an encounter in the same way. You can kind of just free flow into combat like that, and then once you kill them, leave. And stay, but the whole time staying in the dungeon layer. It doesn't transition to another layer when you're in that layer. So, and I wish that more of it was that dungeon layer, but I think that probably it was done that way to, like, as a scope consideration, because they didn't want to, like, it's not a budget title by any means, but it feels like there are places where you can see where they cut corners in order to make this game a bit cheaper to make, I guess.
Right.
And that is one of them. They have that kind of thing. They also have another.
A lot of JRPGs have that overworld thing. Like classic Final Fantasy games are pretty much all that. And occasional dungeons or things
even
like
I mean, yeah, it's more like that, but I think with how they set up. I guess for me, because they have those dungeon layers and because the combat like encounter layer are so, it feels good to be in those that, right. And it doesn't feel as good to be in the overlay or the overworld layer. So it just feels like it would have been a better game if it was more like that. So I know that a lot of games have done that. It just feels like you feel what it would be like to if the whole game was like that, and it's not. So
then you wish it were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Although I guess if they did it that way, then it just would have taken a lot longer because it actually has a really big like overworld. So
right.
It kind of makes sense that they did that way. It's just the dungeon parts are very much more fun. So you start off as this is a minor spoiler, but it's at the very beginning of the game, and it's like kind of hilarious. But
okay,
the game kind of opens, and you start off like viewing a presidential motorcade, and then it zooms into the back seat, and then there's like kind of an old president guy sitting in the back of the motorcade as he's driving into like New York or something. And this is kind of told later through exposition, but he's on the way to like a peace summit, and then a nuclear missile comes and blows up the city and kills him.
What?
And like right as he's like dying, he kind of fades out of existence and then appears in the world of Ni no Kuni. So, I don't actually know if the world's called Ni no Kuni or whatever. Ni no Kuni in Japanese means like second country. That's how it's spelled.
Okay.
And it kind of means like two separate worlds basically. But
right,
he kind of appears in this place called Ding Dong Dell, which is the name of this the like country that he appears in. Yes.
Why?
I don't know why it's named a Ding Dong Dell, but it is.
Okay.
There are actually a lot of like penis euphemisms throughout the game. Actually, it's kind of funny. Not to the extent of something like Persona 5, where like half of the characters are penises,
half
but
of the enemies, yeah.
But yeah, like it's kind of fun innuendo though. Nothing super in your face. Like the game definitely seems like a teen game, right? But
they're like dick jokes.
Yeah, there are a lot of like things that you read the name of that character and you're like, that could be a euphemism. There's a lot of that. The game's not super hard, because they're very generous with dropping health items. Not in the sense that they drop you potions, because they also do that, but like anytime you kill an enemy, a lot of times they'll drop little health pickups, kind of a la Diablo 3, where like they kind of with orbs. As you're fighting, they'll drop healing items, and then you kind of just sustain like that.
See.
But there is more dodging and stuff. Like you have to dodge a lot of projectiles, and you have to like in the same, like you're locked into a lot of animations when you swing your attacks, so you need to be careful not to button mash too much, or else you'll get hit by enemies' attacks rather than avoiding them.
So would you say that the combat is like compare it to a different game for me? Is it close to like Kingdom Hearts, Devil May Cry?
It is it's like Kingdom Hearts, except you're a little bit more locked into animations than you are.
A little bit more locked. Okay.
Like you have a very generous roll with vulnerability frames on it.
Okay.
But you can't roll in the middle of an attack swing. And I don't want to say this, but something like Dark Souls, you can't just roll out when you're in the middle of swinging an attack. You
Dark
have,
Souls,
you have
JRPG.
You have to connect before you can roll, right?
Right.
And it's
Wait
very
a second. Dark Souls is a JRPG. You almost had me fooled there.
I'm not gonna argue about this again.
And I don't want to sit there and like compare it to Dark Souls, because really it's not. It doesn't have it doesn't have the stamina stuff. It's none of that. It's just like in terms of just straight up being locked into animations, it is very much like that. But in the same way that Kingdom Hearts is kind of like, you're very fast, you're very mobile. A lot of your attacks will like shoot forward towards enemies, kind of.
Right.
You can swing and hit nothing, but a lot of times it's pretty good about connecting when you're like trying to hit something. It has a lock-on system. I tend not to use it very often unless I'm trying to hit a specific ranged enemy.
Okay.
When you're playing the President of the United States, you have a gun, so you can
Good.
shoot people.
Of course. Yes.
And
Funny
then
Valentine.
And then the main character, the king, or I guess the dethroned king of Ding Dong Dell, is I forget his first name. It's I just had it. Something Petty Whisker. He's like a cat boy.
Oh, good.
In this world, there's like beast people.
How you like cat boys?
There's beast people, humans, and then like crossbreeds. The main character's a crossbreed between a lion and a human, so he's a human with cat ears and a tail.
So are the beast people like straight up furries, and then the half breeds are like Neko?
Yeah, there's I've run into a character who's just a straight up cat person. I've run into mouse people. They're like a lot of the enemies. There's like a rat king guy.
Oh, good.
I showed you the video where the president of the United States shot a mouse man with a gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Vermintide.
Is that
me, the president?
So yeah, in a way, the president kind of comes in and like becomes the king's advisor.
Is his name just the president of the United States, or does he have a name?
His name is Roland.
Okay.
I don't remember his last name, but he's Roland, and it's just funny to call him the president of the United States because
that's what he is.
Yeah.
Or was.
That's what he was before he got nuked, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not super clear whether or not he died, I guess, because all that he was far enough away that he didn't get vaporized, but his motorcade got flipped over and stuff, and it's like maybe Fallout, who knows?
His brain got scrambled.
But like he disappears into magic blue dust and then appears de-aged in Ding Dong Dell. So like he's younger when he goes to Ding Dong Dell. He looks like 20s.
Thankfully he got to keep his gun.
Yeah, I don't know. He shows up in like a business suit and has a gun. And they're like, maybe you should wear this guard uniform so you don't stand out by looking like a weirdo.
No, I am the president of the United States of America.
He's just like, okay, but I'm keeping my United States or my American flag.
I'm keeping my official United States gun.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's
every
funny.
Every time he speaks, like a U.S. flag just sort of dissolves in.
It's kind of funny because
everyone just.
Other characters get base weapons that you can sell, like once you replace them, but his gun is unsellable. You have to keep his gun no matter what. And they say like, this is a magic ring that you store weapons in, and because of how it works, like as you kill things, you gain more magic that gets sent to the ring that refills your ammo. So he has unlimited ammo on his gun too because of this magic ring.
Good. A ring that you said sort of like Final Fantasy 15, except instead of a ring, you just store your weapons in your soul.
Hammer space. Yeah, kind of in the same way. I really love this game. I've always been a fan of Level 5, the developer of this game, though. Back since I played Dark Cloud on the PS2.
It's the same developers?
Same developers as Dark Cloud. They're one of my favorite developers, actually.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of something else there's at least one other notable game that they've done. Level 5 games. Oh, apparently they did Yokai Watch as well.
Really? That excites me, actually.
Rogue Galaxy.
Yeah.
They're a really good series developer though, for sure.
Cool.
They did some of the Dragon Quest games.
You're selling me on this. How many party members are there?
So you start off with just Roland.
Right.
Then you get the king, and he becomes the main character. So he kind of once you unlock the king.
And the king is the little cat boy.
Yeah, the king is the cat boy.
Yeah,
when you unlock the king, Evan Evan Pettywhiskers.
Evan Pettywhiskers.
When you unlock Evan, Roland becomes like a side party member, but you can push up on the D-pad to swap between them at any time.
Okay.
It has mouse and keyboard support and controller support. I don't think the mouse and keyboard support is too bad, but this definitely seems like the kind of game you would want to play with a controller, but it's not impossible to play it with a mouse and keyboard, so...
Right.
Man, this game is really fun. I really love it. I don't think I've been this into like an actual JRPG for a long time. And I'm really into Final Fantasy 15 as well, but even with Final Fantasy, like I'll be at work going, man, I want to go home and play some Final Fantasy. Where this game, I'm like constantly thinking, oh, I just can't wait to get home and play some Ni no Kuni. I don't want to talk to people. I just want to go home and play Ni no Kuni. It's like I really haven't. I wish I could have put more time into it. Like I said, I've only put like 4.5 hours or 4-ish hours into it. The game, I haven't gotten to it yet, and like I was telling my friends earlier when I was telling them about the game, I don't think I've. In fact, I know that I'm not through learning about all of the systems in the game yet. In addition to like the normal combat stuff, they also have like a kind of army battle system where you kind of go in with your little chibi dude, and you have like sets of like army people. Like you have a group of soldiers and then group of archers, and then you use the bumpers on the 360 controller to rotate them around yourself, so you can position them and kind of lead them forward and stuff, and then they clash with other little army people, and that's a whole like another mode. And then they also have like a kingdom building thing where you collect people from different places and you have them come to your kingdom, and then you get resources, and then you can build like shops and stuff and build up your kingdom and stuff. I'm only like starting to get into that, but so there's a whole like kingdom building element to it as well. I cannot say enough good things about this game. It is really fun. There, like I said, my like the minor complaints I have with it are like some of the textures aren't great. The voice acting really isn't that good. Roland in particular is not very good. I almost like. Unfortunately, I wish that you could change the language at any time in the game, but you have to go back to the main menu. And it's not like once you pick one you're stuck with it, but you have to go to the main menu, change it, and then come back. And it's like there in the very beginning of the game, Roland talks a lot, and then later on he doesn't really talk much anymore. So I'm like, and he's notably bad, whereas the other ones are like okay.
It's me, the President of the United States.
Not quite that bad.
I have my gun.
Not quite that bad, but his voice acting is a little stiff. Evan is actually pretty good. He's kind of cute. He has kind of a cute voice, and I like listening to him talk because he's like, he stutters, and I don't know, he's really funny. Whereas in Japanese, I didn't like Evan's voice actor as much as I did in the English one. And when I say English, it's like British English too. He has like this really cute British accent. So I'm into the Evans voice actor, but Roland's is kind of bad. And he has an American accent, so it's not like it's weird, but it's just delivery isn't awesome. That being said, they don't talk that much because 90% of dialogue is like they'll like grunt or something, or say like the first line in a sentence, and then it'll be like text. That's another place where they obviously cut a corner. It's not fully voice acted. It's
but that
voice acted for some cutscenes.
The writing better. So
it's not enough text for it to have mattered in the same way it might in like Fallout. In Fallout, they had to reduce, like, it was a huge ass script, and that was even after they reduced it from like something like New Vegas. Whereas in this game, they could have voice acted everything. They chose not to, as a obvious like cost cutting measure. Even in Japanese, they only will, do and then it'll be like a bunch of stuff. Like, so, yeah, I don't know. That's gonna be one of those things, like, it's not... Even in combat, they'll put up little boxes where you have to read it. Like, and they'll just say the first word, so it's not as if you can even make the argument, like, well, I want them to speak in English because, at least in English, you know, I can hear them chattering in combat or something, because they don't. So, like, it's
Right.
almost all text anyway, except for cutscenes. But, and if Evan was really bad, I would probably, or not as bad, like, not, if Evan wasn't cute, like, had a cute voice actor that I enjoyed listening to, I probably would just change it to Japanese forever, but, voice acting is not great in English, so, take that with however you want to go, honestly. Maybe get through the first chapter and decide whether or not Roland grates on YouTube. I don't know. You know, it's gonna be a case by case basis about whether or not you want to actually like deal with that or not.
Right.
But I would not hesitate and say, like, if someone told me they switched it to Japanese immediately and never listened to the English voice acting, I would not hold it against them.
Okay.
So we could go to a break, but we're already running a little long. Do you want to just hurry up through the last 40 minutes of the show?
I kind of need a 5-minute break.
Okay, we'll do 5 minutes then and come back at 5:30.
Okay. Do we have that much news? We have a little bit.
Not a ton, but
we have a decent amount of gaming news.
we had to scrape a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think there are things that we could get into conversations about.
Yeah.
In the gaming side, so that's why I'm a little bit worried about timing, but
Right.
it's probably fine. Probably be all right. Okay, we will be back at 5:30.
Okay.
And we're back. All right. So for the second half of the show, we're gonna go into some. Why don't we start with movie news this week, and then we'll head into some gaming news after. Since not a ton of movie stuff.
Light. Yeah. Sorry, I'm very focused on my skull filled with coffee.
Am I reading this Rampage one right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Sure. I wanna save that one for last because that one's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Let's start up. So the first thing is Sonic the Hedgehog movie starts filming in Vancouver.
It has a start date too of June 30th.
Okay.
July 30th. I'm sorry.
July 30th.
So July 30th, they're going to have Sonic the Hedgehog is going to officially start filming, which is much farther than a lot of other game movies.
Sonic the Hedgehog is coming to theaters.
It's going to be one of those like live action animated crossover movies, which is just like every time I see this, I'm just like, I wonder if they're going to give Sonic a human girlfriend again.
Every time I see this, I'm like, I wonder if it'll be worse than the Smurfs.
Every time I see this, I'm like, wow, is this the 90s? Damn, you gotta scrape the fucking barrel for this shit.
I think there's some potential for a Sonic movie.
Okay.
I just don't. They could come up with a good Sonic movie. I just don't expect it.
I feel like it has almost the same problem as like the Mario Brothers movie had, which it's like. It's a video game about a dude running from stage to stage. So, like, I don't know what they
look, though.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic has a story now.
No, it doesn't. Don't fucking lie to me. Oh, yeah, that's right. No, you're right. Metal Sonic and stuff came back, and Eggman stole the Chaos Emeralds again. So, yeah, just team up.
Sonic's always had a story since, like, Sonic Adventure. Anyway.
It's like Sonic CD.
Anyway.
Today,
well, not if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, but today, the 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's its 50th anniversary. Happy 50th! Happy 50th! It is playing in a bunch of cinemas because of this fact. It's a fucking incredible movie. If you haven't seen it yet, it's one of those movies it is one of those movies, you know. It's one of those like it's one of those films that you just gotta see. It's one of the Kubrick's best.
I
All
also
of
really
Kubrick's movies are
enjoyed 2001 and its sequel, which is a little
Yeah.
bit less well lauded, but
2002.
I think it's like 2005 or something. It's like a few years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Or 2011 or something. It's something like that. It's actually
Right.
also a really good movie that has like a really twisted ending, and it kind of makes good on a lot of the open threads that they leave in 2001.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it's the kind of thing where it's like it's if it wasn't like 7 hours or whatever, it would be worth watching those two movies back to back.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, happy birthday 2001, Kubrick's science fiction masterpiece. Which all of his movies are masterpieces, but this is the science fiction one.
It's also one of those things where it's like a really important movie in science fiction history, sort of. So you kind of like, if you are a fan of science history or science fiction, This is like definitely on one of the top of the list to watch. So
yeah, it was the reason that Star Wars was made, because all of the science fiction movies were this or Russian, and people were bored. The next movie, the news that we're going to talk about, and the last one, the really fun one that we're going to talk about. I've been going a little bit crazy over the fact that a goddamn Rampage movie is being made, not like in a good way, but in like a, are you fucking actually serious? No one has given a shit about Rampage in 2 billion years. Dalsson
my thoughts just kind of like, why not?
At this point, they're just fucking pulling shit out of a hat, let's be honest. Director Yu Bull has threatened Warner Brothers with legal action over the Rampage movie.
What is his chief complaint with it?
Let's find out. Reviewing his options to pursue litigation against the motion picture.
Oh, they're saying that they're using some of the ideas and brands established from his Rampage movie. And I wasn't even aware he made one, but
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Oh, apparently it was a trilogy.
Huh.
He released the last one last year. Ooh, buddy. I mean, here's the thing. Seeing this like this Rampage movie, right?
Hold on, I just need to
seeing that
let me just read this quote.
Okay. Go ahead.
This is something Yu Bull had written. I want that Warner's change the title, especially because the new movie has nothing to do with a Rampage and looks more like Jumanji 2 and is one of those typical feel-good popcorn bullshit movies that the studios use to brainwash America even more. This is Yu Bull. Have you seen any of your own movies?
Mr. Bull, hey, listen. I mean, this is gonna be real hard, my man. This is gonna be real hard. First off, I just want to say that you are not a great American filmmaker. There are a lot of people who are making a lot of movies, really underground movies. We talk about them all the time on this show. You are not one of these people who is making great underground movies. Second off, you do have a big fan base, but all of them watch your movies ironically. Like, no, everyone is laughing at you, my man. Dude.
I love the quote in this article that just says, presumably Bull is either unaware of the Rampage video game that preceded his own Rampage movie by 23 years, or he just doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't give a shit. I also really like the, we are living now in a world where independent movies are dead and the big players are the only ones making all the money. In a world with Netflix and A24, this is absolutely false and no one will distribute your movies because they are really bad.
I think that my brain shut off for a moment. Could you read that quote for me again?
Like the one I did or him?
The one where UA Bull said something stupid.
So the one that I read or the one that Saine read?
I don't know. About the time I started downing the rest of my beer.
Rampage and looks more like Jumanji 2 and is one of those typical feel-good popcorn bullshit movies that the studios use to brainwash America even more.
And the one I said was, we are living now in a world where independent movies are dead and the big players only make the big money.
That was it. No, Saints. I don't know what.
Let's move on.
Okay. Yeah. Fun stuff with U-Bowl suing Warner Brothers. Oh boy, I can't wait to see how this plays out. This is the best news I've heard all year.
He said he is looking at his options. He's not gonna sue Warner. Well,
I mean, of
Never
course,
mind.
He's threatening legal against a movie that's been in like development for fucking years. It's only just now. You, my man, you could have done this fucking when the movie was announced like 2 years ago. Come on, my man.
Anyway, let's move on to kind of our biggest story this week. So
Overwatch is no, I'm kidding.
no, Nintendo put out its patch 5.0, and if you're using a third-party dock, there's a good chance that it could brick your Nintendo Switch.
yeah.
Reason
That's
for
definitely
this is
something that you need to be aware of.
the reason for this is Nintendo Switches don't use the same like voltage requirements and stuff on like of a typical USB 3.0 like port. So if you're
Right.
using any USB 3.0 thing that is not officially licensed by Nintendo, it could. So just a
Jesus.
PSA: if you have, for instance, the very popular Nyko dock for the Nintendo Switch, don't use it. That one in particular is bricking systems, according to like use and stuff. So
Right.
yeah, it's and right now because there's no cloud saves or any way to back up your saves in any way, if your Switch gets docked, you actually lose all of your save files for real. Even sending them in, they're not able to like recover that data for you most of the time. So this is kind of a big deal. Make sure you stay safe, kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Third party stuff gonna
Jesus.
break your shit. Watch your butts.
No more mad cats for me.
All right. Next thing, it's less of a big deal, but well, actually, I don't think Mad Catz makes video game accessories.
I know.
Niantic settles its Pokemon Go Festival lawsuit for over 1.5 million.
Oh, I remember that shit. I love this shit. Go on. Please.
Yeah, it was kind of a big thing. There's not really much else there going on, but yeah, they're offering full ticket refunding to attendees, along with free Pokecoins and other in-game items, and then I guess this is to help reimburse people for travel funds and that.
Jesus.
How has it been recently that there have been all of these incredible failed cons? Like,
This
we had
wasn't
fucking-
even a con. This was more like if you were to put
It's like an
common
event.
word to it, it was like a meetup.
Yeah.
mm,
So anyone who wants to file a claim, they have to have checked into the festival via the Pokemon Go app. And anyone claiming more than $107 in expenses will have to show receipts.
mhm.
Huh.
Which shouldn't be too hard to get for like airplane tickets and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's notable. That's worth looking at. Next thing I'll go into is
I want to introduce the one that I thought Thel might be excited about. So
okay, well I'm kind of going by sort of importance right now.
okay.
I'll leave that one to the end.
Okay.
Grand Theft Auto 5. So Lindsay Lohan in 2014 sued Rockstar Games for Grand Theft Auto 5 for a character who she said resembled her. Most people, when they heard about it, were like, she doesn't resemble her. And and now, yeah, after it went to the New York Court of Appeals, they ruled on Thursday that it does not resemble her, and that it was used in a, or where's the exact quote from? Yeah, okay, this article doesn't actually have the quote from it, but artwork during the game's loading screens depict a blonde woman who looks vaguely similar to her, maybe.
Yeah.
Here's what the court ruled, and I think this is kind of a funny quote because, like, it's a court ruling, but it's almost a dig at Lindsay Lohan. It says the artistic renderings are an indistinct satirical representation of the style, look, and persona of a modern beach-going young woman that are not reasonably identifiable as the plaintiff.
Yeah, that's the quote I was looking for.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and like, I don't think it looks like Lindsay Lohan from looking at it personally, but
Yeah, not really.
But apparently Lindsay Lohan does.
Right.
Or she just wanted to, get some free money.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a huge thing. The next article is kind of a bigger deal because it has a lot of
Ramifications.
potential ramifications.
Yeah,
So,
here we go.
Big Fish Casino, a mobile video game, has been ruled as illegal online gambling according to the federal appeals court. So it says without virtual chips, a user is unable to play Big Fish Casino's various games. Judge Millen D. Smith of the Ninth Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals wrote on his opinion on Wednesday. Thus, if a user runs out of virtual chips and wants to continue playing a Big Fish Casino, or not a Big Fish, continue playing the game, she must buy more chips to have the privilege of playing the game. Likewise, if a user wins chips, the user wins the privilege of playing the Big Fish Casino without charge. In sum, these virtual chips extend the privileges of playing Big Fish Casino. That kind of, most of the time, they don't count things as gambling unless you can cash the money out. But in this case, they're saying that by winning money, it allows you to play longer, therefore it has intrinsic value to it, therefore it counts as money. That is what the judge is arguing in this case. Suit argued that the chips represent something of value, a vague clause within Washington state law governing gambling.
Huh. Jeez.
Yeah. So that's the reason why this is kind of an important topic is because that could go for a lot of things in mobile games in particular.
Yeah.
As well as even stuff like Steam trading cards or like loot box clothes or anything that has a gambling aspect to it, like TF2 hats, CS:GO skins, like that could be a lot of things. Especially
CS:GO
surrounding
skins,
Steam
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those in particular, because you can't cash them out for real money. That's just why they were okay. But with this as a precedent,
if this says
that stuff that you sell can be used to,
if this is true, then if it has a intrinsic value to it being a virtual item, which many CS:GO skins do have intrinsic value because they have a monetary monetary value listed in a trade marketplace, and people can cash that stuff out. Not officially, but they can.
Yeah.
So that could put Steam in some kind of precarious water if people wanted to try to sue Steam over something.
Yeah.
And what kind of happens a lot of time with anything in terms of these gray areas is people lose money and then decide to sue the people because they are operating in a gray area in the first place. So, which is why Big Fish is being sued. Yeah. But I don't know, like this. I really don't know how I feel about this because on one hand, last thing I want is for the government to start regulating game systems because they probably wouldn't understand the nuances of the subject. But on the other hand, I can see the argument in that some of this stuff does have real world monetary value. So
I don't know, I feel in my mind it's why would you play Big Fish Casino on your phone and spend money to spin a virtual slot machine to win money that is only used specifically for spinning that virtual slot machine when you could just go to a real casino and have the potential to spend real money doing the exact same thing to win real money?
Because people like gambling and it hits those same triggers in their brain.
That's exactly. So why not go to a real gambling place?
Because you can lose all of your money with that.
You can lose all of your money with this. And that's why they're being sued.
Well, it's more convenient to do it from your phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And people who are this deep into gambling stuff, like, are the kind of people who would fall for that stuff. But at the same time, there are a lot of free gambling apps. So why don't they use those? Because I know my dad plays like 10 different slot machine apps. So I don't know.
Excuse me.
Like, he's not much of a gamer, but one of the things he does do is play lots of gambling apps on his phone. So he doesn't spend real money on it, but like, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is kind of, we're in a weird place with video games and the law right now, in that any of this could turn into government oversight or direct regulations or anything. So we're kind of in a weird, precarious situation.
Right.
Which some people may want the aspects of the game industry to be regulated more. Like, maybe people want that.
Like, people are upset because some of these business practices are predatory, but I feel like the people who are going after these types of things in court are not the people who are falling for the predatory business practices. Because they're just like, well, yeah,
I think the ones in court specifically are. Ones who are talking about changing laws and talking to their representatives and stuff, those ones probably aren't falling for it. But the people who are actually suing people over it, they are, because they have, like they can claim actual damages. So
right. But is it really damages if you voluntarily paid for these things? Like,
hey man, someone's gotta protect dumbasses.
It is if the person offering the money is in a legal gray area. That's the thing. Like, it is a voluntary giving someone else money, but if you get mad at them because you're losing money, then suddenly you can be like, well, now I'm gonna sue them because I lost money, and they're operating in gray area, so like they are likely to have to pay. So that's really where they're at with it. I think it's unethical for them to be doing that, but like for them to be suing them for, you know, after having given them money, but at the same time, it's like it's
that's what
understandable.
Confuses me. Like, if you're going to get mad that you lost on these little gambling things, why do it in the first place?
People dumb
because
as hell.
People can't control themselves.
Yeah,
some people just can't control themselves.
That's their fault.
It is their fault.
I mean,
and I agree.
but it's still predatory.
Here's the thing.
It's preying on these types of people.
I agree with you, and I don't think these people suing, you know, the like the video game gambling stuff. I don't think that what they're doing is necessarily ethical either. But they do have a legal case, and that's all that matters. So yeah, and I wish that people weren't putting predatory microtransactions into their video games as well.
Yeah, but you also wish that people wouldn't fall for that ever, but
exactly,
I mean,
but they do.
A perfect world,
and that's why we're in this situation. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Perfect
the whole thing.
World, I would not exist, but this is not the perfect world.
So, Dalsson, why don't you take the last 3 topics, starting with the Overwatch one?
Okay. So now Overwatch is testing new things. It's a little bit of balance changes. I'll just go through them real quick. Reaper now reloads after doing Death Blossom, so he can Death Blossom and then continue to fire instead of, waste all of his ammo. No, it would keep the current ammo. Wraith Form, which is his escape that turns him into a ghost, has increased the speed bonus that he gets from 25 to 50% and is now cancelable by Reaper. So, kind of big buffs there. May, another huge buff. Her endothermic blaster pierces through enemies, so you can freeze multiple people at a time instead of one person blocking your blaster.
Oh fuck, that's gonna make my my ability of just. No wait, no, that'll still work for that. Never mind. Go on.
It does not, however, go through shields, of course. Diva had her micro missile damage nerfed a little bit because it was too bursty, and
I can see that. It was a fucking monster.
Secondary fire has its rate of fire reduced a little bit, so instead of going all at once, it's like all at once. I don't know. It's not a big difference. It doesn't seem like a big difference. They also made Moira's abilities a little easier to see, but here is the big build one that I actually linked this article for. Like, most importantly, they are returning the avoid player function as avoid player as teammate.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who haven't been following Overwatch for the longest time or don't know, when Overwatch came out, it had a function where instead of just reporting and hoping that something would be done about a toxic player, you could right-click them and avoid them as a player, meaning you would never be matched in games with them. Now, the problem was, if everybody is avoiding 5 different players, that reduces the matchmaking pool to such an abysmally small level. Like, you can't match this guy with that guy, and this guy's gotten matched with this guy, but now those 2 people together are now avoiding 10 players, and you have to match 12 people in a game, so that's like 60 people you can't match with, and then everybody's matched with this and that and the other. And so it just made the matchmaking pool too small. It made matchmaking like
and in any situation where in any situation where you can forcibly avoid someone, you would say, oh, this person's too good and he beat me and I don't want to fight him again, so avoid him. Like,
right, so people
would
were
do stuff
avoiding
like that
a lot
as well.
of people, lot of people, and it made the matchmaking take so long that they just removed the feature from the game entirely. They are now reintroducing it as an avoid as teammate, so you'll never be matched with the person as your teammate, but you can play against them. So that both removes the thing that Saine was saying, like, you're not going to avoid a good player as your teammate. You would want them to be matched on your team. But if there is somebody who is like particularly an asshole or like exceptionally bad or
directly
harassing you, you can avoid them as a teammate, and you'll never be matched with them as a teammate in your future games, which is, I feel, how it should have been to start.
It's a much better way of handling it, for sure.
Yeah. Being able to avoid players in games entirely, like, it's a PvP game. Like, that's obviously going to reduce the matchmaking pool, but avoiding them as your teammate while still going to be reducing the matchmaking pool will not. I don't know. It's not going to be as impactful.
It does make me wonder about how things look at the high end of like the Grandmaster games and stuff. Because there's already
a pool of like 90 players or something, right?
Yeah, like the top 100 is still like, that's still a small number of people doing that. Well, that has greater ability to that. So maybe I wonder if at a certain point they don't even take it to account anymore. If it's
well, like Grandmaster does match into a league below it though, because there's just no way that it couldn't. But
well,
yeah, like
I've heard anecdotally that some of the top players play against each other constantly because there's such a small pool. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's how it is in mini games. Like
in most games, yeah.
Like if you go and sit and watch like fucking League of Legends, if you watch Dyra's stream, you're gonna see the same like 90 people in a majority of his games, because those are all the players who are like basically playing at a professional level.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just wondering how this affects it, or if it doesn't affect it in matchmaking, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is gonna be weird.
So the next one, Thel's gonna be excited about this one. I know.
Hollow
Knight is releasing an update called Lifeblood.
Yeah.
It's not like it's out on the public beta, but I could not find a list of patch notes. Essentially, it's a few fixes and tweaks, like bug fixes. There's a brand new boss, quote, a dramatic upgrade to an existing boss.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm most excited for is the ability to use map markers on the game's map, meaning I won't get fucking lost anymore.
Well, you say that, but it's probably an in-game charm.
Additionally, I will absolutely use that charm. Don't even fucking play.
Like I said, in-game, you're gonna have to get through a bunch of shit before you can get it.
Yeah, well, there are numerous game balances and tweaks, as well as various bug fixes, optimizations, and performance enhancements. So it's a huge update. It is not a DLC. It is different from an upcoming DLC titled Gods and Glory.
Yeah, that's the one.
Which will add new characters, boss fights, and new game mode. That's Hornet, right?
No. That's a different one.
Different one? Okay.
Yeah. I'll probably play. Actually, you know what? Here's the thing. A lot of people have asked me to do a Path of Pain video, and if there's like a new game mode or like a new game type, like there's Steel Soul mode and there's regular mode, which Steel Soul mode would fuck me over and I would die like a little bitch constantly. So, and that's like hardcore mode, so that wouldn't like. I'm not super interested in that, but maybe in the Gods and Glory one, I'll make like a video where I get to the place where the Path of Pain is, because currently in my game it's locked out for me because I beat the place where the Path of Pain was supposed to be before Path of Pain came out.
Right.
So yeah.
So, Star Citizen patch 3.1 is the last one.
This is one that's supposed to make a lot of the problems I had with Star Citizen be fixed. I don't know.
So let's read the headline here about all these problems that you had with Star Citizen being fixed. Star Citizen patch 3.1 brings with it character customization and new ships.
It does do a little bit of fucking optimization though.
It's
a lot
very
of people
low
are
build.
saying it's better.
Like I actually read the full patch notes, and the full patch notes literally had one line that said includes various performance and optimization.
Yeah, well that's the thing. That's like they're doing optimization throughout the entire year, and it's all on their roadmap. Like they have exactly what's going to be in each.
Well,
patch,
it's one of those
each patch they're going to be.
It's one of those things that like. When people are reading patch notes, a lot of times there's no way to explain it other than optimization patches, because what they're doing, the way that optimization works in like game development or any software development really, is you go through and you make lines of code talk about more specific things than before. So the reason why a lot of optimization is done at the end is because it like a lot of times systems are open-ended in that anything in like any other piece of code can reference this piece of code just because it's easier to program ongoing that way. But when you get to the end, you want to talk about very specific things so that this thing is only ever talking about this thing, and this thing is only can receive like 5 things, so that it's not constantly waiting for anything. So like that's like, in order to say what it would specifically do, you would have to be talking about like individual pieces of code, and there's no way to like do that without revealing code base. So that's why all you can really say in patch notes is optimization fixes. So
well, see, like now I don't actually know. I didn't play Star Citizen. I watched the Star Citizen video that they'll put out, which showcased a whole 12 minutes of him loading, and that's it. Which kind of pissed me off just watching it, but I don't really know. Like
only for the door to bug on.
Yeah, only for the door to bug on. I'm like, I don't know how it actually feels if I were to play it, right?
Yeah.
But that said, like adding a huge in-depth character creator, they added so like with like quadrillions of combinations or whatever the fuck they said, and then they added like I think I counted like 17 or 18 new ships to fly.
Well, it is true that they do have a pretty in-depth character customization, and you can do a lot of things. Except you cannot play it as a girl yet. You're gonna have to wait to the end of that.
I can see why though, because it does take different skeletons and animations for that. So it is more work than just saying, "Oh, this one has tits now." But that's still pretty funny.
I mean, you could just do that. You could just put tits on the male. You could just like have a bunch of female ones, and it's like the only difference between them is one has tits and the other one doesn't. You can make a male with like incredibly feminine features.
I mean, Star Citizen is one of those things that
it's been in development for 7 years.
I'm just not gonna touch until it's like 9.0 or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
because like especially like one of the big things, one of the reasons I'm trying to get into it early is so that I can amass a lot of UAC, so that when these guys start playing, I can have a big ass ship that we can all fly on. But unfortunately, right now you cannot buy ships with in-game money or even ship equipment.
Really? You can't buy ships with in-game?
Well, not yet.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot of the progression hooks are even in the game yet. But that's the thing. Like this, and this is I think this is the key problem with Star Citizen as it exists right now. It is a tech demo of like 20 different systems. It is like tech demos of systems. It's not a game right now. Yeah, not really.
Right.
So, I don't know. Like if you go into it expecting a game, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
But the alternative problem is Sea of Thieves, where you have a core game loop and nothing to do in it. So I don't know. Yeah. Like it's one of those.
I honestly enjoyed personally I like that a little bit better because I enjoyed Sea of Thieves. Like again, a lot of people have that problem with Elite Dangerous, and yeah, same. I also had that problem with Elite Dangerous, but I got like 200 hours into that. So
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
and I had that problem with it.
I did not like Elite Dangerous at all.
Yeah, because like Elite Dangerous was so weird.
I liked
Because you
Elite
think
Dangerous,
you'd want to
but-
make a game like that, super like have like a big multiplayer thing where like everyone could play together and do things together. And Elite Dangerous was just a single player game where every once in a while you'd run into someone.
Right.
Even setting that aside, there was sort of no
Yeah.
point in being in multiplayer anyway.
Yeah.
But and even setting that aside, I think the basis of Elite Dangerous was fun enough if you looked at it like Euro Truck Simulator in space.
Yeah.
So
Right.
one of the things I did enjoy about that game is I could go to different systems, buy and sell resources from different like places, and then go to other ones, and then try to hawk it off there. So I kind of did have fun jumping around through the map trying to make small amounts of money by being a trader. But like that is a small closed game loop kind of with Elite Dangerous, and if they don't add enough variety, then it gets boring real fast.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but like if even they have just this base amount of variety, but like the rewards didn't feel so fucking far away because the developers believe that making a game that is more grindy than EVE Online is a good idea.
Well, that's the same problem I have with Sea of Thieves. It costs a fuck ton to buy anything.
Yeah,
it's like the whole game is character like cosmetics, and then everything costs so fucking much.
So you can get like one hat. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Like 10 missions to get one hat. The entire time that we played, I only got one cosmetic upgrade, and that was like because I had done a bunch of the missions. Like for that specific person. I didn't even make enough money to buy anything.
YouTube keeps recommending me this this video that says Sea of Thieves, how to make the most money the fastest. And like on the thumbnail it has like a picture of plus 3,000, plus 2,500, right? And even then, if you're making 3,000 monies per mission, things cost like 17,000 money.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing in Sea of Thieves and like and Elite Dangerous. Well, in Sea of Thieves, the thing is like it's very multiplayer and there's a lot of PvP, but in like Elite Dangerous, because of the fact that it's so almost feels so very single player, it's like why even? It's like you're not even balancing it for the people who play the most get the best stuff. You're balancing it in a really weird way. Just give everyone the best ship at this point. Fucking why not? The thing you want us to kill is NPCs anyway.
Well, there needs to be some progression, or else you fall into the Sea of Thieves problem.
Yeah, okay, well, make it like the World of Warcraft MMO progression, where you work your way up to the biggest ship and then you do the in-game content or something.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I mean, there is some progression with Elite Dangerous that I did like, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sea of Thieves also a big problem. But at least Sea of Thieves worked. And at least Sea of Thieves you could play multiplayer. Out of all of these games, I probably enjoyed the Sea of Thieves the most, even though there was fucking nothing to do with it.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves
like,
was
if you
fun.
compare it to like a good game like fucking Divinity Original Sin 2, it doesn't hold a singular fucking candle or even half of a fucking candle.
No,
but you know, in comparison to these other games.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel weird about space sims because I really haven't either. I feel like when it comes to space sims, either you have like two polar opposites. Either it's so streamlined that nothing is happening in it, or it's so complex that it's hard to play.
Yeah. Right.
And Elite Dangerous almost had both problems. It was pretty complex to play, and there was like
nothing
there was nothing to do in it, kind of.
And I didn't have that much problem with Elite Dangerous because it was pretty much the same thing as X3, except when you're jumped into the universe, there are a lot of missions that are entirely possible, and it will tell you which missions you are entirely incapable of doing. So at least it had that going.
Whereas
for it.
Elite Dangerous will just give you nothing but missions that you are completely incapable of doing. Until
No. That's what I was saying. Elite Dangerous at least did tell you there were missions that you were incapable of doing. X3 does not. If there is like a mission, it will give you missions. Oh yeah, you need to move the space station. I have I don't even have like a frigate. Oh, then here's the space station parts. You can't fit it in your cargo bay. It's too big. What, do I not? You failed my fucking mission? How could you fuck that up? I just wanted you to move a space station. Which is why you have to do the campaign for that game. So
I feel as though in Elite Dangerous, though, you would take a mission and it would say, oh, kill a whole squadron of fighters. Your ship is a frigate, so you should have no problem with these fighters. And then you go in there and the fighters would blow you up in like less than a second because they have such great weapons.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like your capabilities were actually measured properly.
I think that
theoretically this should be possible.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. In Elite Dangerous, there are things that are like
theoretically possible.
There are things that are like literally impossible, and they stop you from doing literally impossible things. Whereas there are some things it's like you could theoretically potentially do things. It'd be impossibly hard, but that's not what we're checking here. So that's better than just completely impossible. I don't know.
Here's something that you are actually incapable of doing because you do not have the correct ship. Like the Elite Dangerous I don't think will give you a transport mission if you don't have like the ability to transport someone. Also, if you don't have the fucking DLC, but that's an entirely different story.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's Star Citizen, I guess.
Yeah, that's Star Citizen.
There's also Galaxy on Fire. I want to put time into that game again, because it seems like the kind of thing that was a little more, maybe a little bit streamlined, but kind of an arcadey thing, and it still had trading in it. So I don't know. That's one of the space sims that I like keep wanting to put time into and just never have. And I don't actually know if it's good.
Played that.
It's pretty cheap on Steam. I'll send you a link after this is done. Maybe you want to check it out.
Yeah, maybe I will, because I love space sims.
Yeah.
It's a hard life.
And that's sort of an older game.
I'm fine with older.
Not
games,
like X.
not
like X old, but like it's I don't know, a few years ago. So
yeah.
I think that's about it for us this week. So why don't we talk about some of the stuff coming up for that?
Yep.
The podcast will be uploaded on Wednesday. You're watching that now if you're recording anything.
Yeah.
The podcast should be uploaded on Wednesday.
Hey, I've been better about that lately.
That's true.
I've actually set up alarms and stuff. I have taken steps so that it shouldn't be happening as often.
Okay.
I might be playing some Ni no Kuni on Twitch.
Okay.
I really hope so, because that game is so good, and I want other people to play it, because, like, it's just so good. I don't know. It is $60, but I think it's totally worth it. I've played so far.
Do we have anything coming up for the YouTube channel other than this right now? Planned, anyway?
I don't think so. I've been really busy at work lately, so I haven't had time to anything together or anything, so.
Right. I have one of my Twitch followers that's been asking me to play SCP Containment Breach, and
that sounds fun.
It's a game that's been on my radar for a long while. We could do a Thel crossed off Dalsson plays a spooky game on that.
We should do that. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Or both.
Yeah.
I have rather encyclopedic knowledge of the early SCP, so I would know all the scares before they happen, and I'll still piss myself like a baby.
I really love SCP stuff, or things that are even reminiscent of SCP. Like, one of my favorite aspects of Spooky's house, whatever, was the SCP-esque characters in it. And, like, there was little, like, text logs about, like, the bizarre ways they kill people.
Exactly. Apparently that game is, like, completed, and they made a Unity remake of it, and the Unity remake is really good. And the first time I played that game, literally all there was to do was a procedurally generated hallway where you could run away from SCP-173.
Yeah,
So,
that's the same thing with me. I also
hopefully
have,
it's
like,
better than the Shadow Ward.
but now the game has like hundreds of SCPs that you can run into, and the main plot is still like the containment has been shut down and they're all over the place. But it started out as a game about running away from
So
the
is the goal
statue.
is the goal just to escape the containment lab?
I don't know a whole lot about it. Apparently you're a D-class prisoner who can't die or something. I don't know. My
can't die.
10-ish SCPs or something. Yeah, who can't die, which makes you great for being a D-class prisoner.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the details on it, but we should give that a shot, especially if all three of us are interested in it. But it's a game
there
that
are
I've wanted
fates
to play
worse
for
with
a
death.
while.
Look to
The
I
D-boy
have
can
no
die,
mouth
well,
and
who
cannot
knows?
scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you said you had a video coming up though?
Yeah, I'm gonna do actual full RimWorld video where I actually play the fucking game more.
That sounds fun, because that was the best part of that Star Citizen video.
Yeah.
Lunch Lady's coming back. I said she was gonna come back. She's gonna come back. Damn it.
All right. So with that, that's us for this week. We will see you next week, and always remember,
stay beautiful.
Oh, actually, I know that we shouldn't do this, but check us out on Steam, our curator list, because we are actively going through and trying to add as many games as we can to that. So, if you're interested in our opinions on games through Steam, check that out. I'll put a link in the description. And
stay beautiful.